I know we have invited many people, but I would like to really recognize the presence of you all, different organizations, mobile network operators. I see Diego here. We have the regulator. I see Dr. Mpunga Hema, Bank of Tanzania, NMB, Equity Bank, Akiba, and many others. So we believe that you will enjoy this conversation and it will provoke some thinking, and this is because we believe that the work that you are doing really matters to contributing to the economic development of the country, but the aspirations of the FSPT is to see improvements in the lives of many people in the country. So here we have Ignacio, who is actually arguing that it's time to put money management at the center of the digital finance corporation. So Ignacio, the audience is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. I've actually already stood in front of groups of people talking about mobile money in Dar and Arusha several times in the past. But it's always exciting to come here. There's always new stories to tell. There's always new insights. Because here we are at the epicenter of the revolution. The whole world is looking at this part of the world. Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda. It's all happening like a tidal wave that is moving from East Africa. So anybody who works in this sector, I would say, needs to come here to get inspired. The truth in terms of global deployment is that things are proceeding not half as fast as people say. So anything you read, divide by 2 at the very least, in terms of how fast it's spreading in other parts of the world. But here is no question it's happening. So we have to learn. I am always in awe at how much impact, the potential for impact of digital financial services can be. And what we have now, which is essentially a digital payment platforms, how much it does for people. And I would summarize 2 types of impact. One having to do with people being able to support each other much more. Is this social insurance mechanism that ties very directly with societal characteristics of mutual support. We put a digital platform on top of social support networks, the thing flies. So it's a fantastic social insurance mechanism that is in the hands of the people. The other thing that I think is fantastic from an impact point of view of digital financial services, mobile money, is as a platform for informal business. The fact that you can send money, buy for goods, with goods come later, is the prepaid economy of business, where you just don't have to worry about the logistics of cash anymore. So these 2 impacts, social networks, informal business, have been tremendous. Has this achieved all the dreams that people have for financial inclusion? It's an endless debate. Is having an M-Pesa account or a Tigo Pesa account, is that financial inclusion? I don't know. What I would tell you is less than financial inclusion, but more than financial inclusion as well. It's less because it's not delivering yet the kind of richness of savings and credit or insurance products that we want, but it's much more than financial inclusion because it's delivering this fabric. Congratulations to all the industry players that have made it happen. What I want to talk about today, though, is one part that I don't think people are talking about, that is the missing element. And to me, it's the cornerstone of any digital finance proposition. And that's the dirty little secret that most accounts are empty. They are. And this, by the way, is not just an issue for mobile money. It's true for banks, too. The state of global financial inclusion, which digital financial inclusion, would say half the people in the world are unbanked. Of the half that are banked, half are dormant. They're ex-banked. And of the half that are not dormant, half are piddly little amounts in there. They might have $1, $5, $10, nothing more than that. So the amount of people that have any significant amount of money in the account is very small. Maybe it's 10% of the top 10%. which probably coincides with those that are banked anyway, those that are salaried, those that we don't really have to worry about because they worry about themselves. So that is my question. Why are those accounts empty? I'm going to give you lots of reasons. And I'm going to tell you, conceptually, the reasons that I believe. But please, as you listen to me, don't just take it at the intellectual level. Try to feel in your gut. If you're a poor person, you don't really know when and where your next dollar is going to come from. Feel in your gut how useless this account is in your life. And then think about how we can make it useful. Okay, so that's really what I ask for you. Think of it from your gut, not just from your brain. So, let me also, by way of introduction, answer the question, well, so what if the accounts are empty? The accounts are empty doesn't mean they're not useful. They are useful. Essentially, it's a payment pass-through. I cash in, money gets sent, and my mother cashes out. Cash in, send, cash out. That's the practice in Tanzania and everywhere that there's banks. All transactions, I exaggerate when I say all, obviously I don't mean all. Most transactions start and end in cash, which is why at any point in time you look at the distribution of the balances and it's a curve like this. Most people have nothing in it unless you happen to catch the data at the point where I was just sending money to my mother, and the average is driven by the top 10%. Why is that a problem? Well, it's a problem in many ways. First, you're helping people help each other. You're not helping people help themselves through savings offerings. From your point of view, you're not capturing float income, which may or may not be available depending on what license you have. Also, if my account is empty, why would I want to pay digitally for goods at the store? This Lipa 9 Pesa and this payment for goods at the store is never going to work. That's my prediction. Even in Kenya. Why would I if my account is empty? If I invited you all for dinner tonight, that was an if. How would I pay? I would pull a credit card. Why? Because I'm more enlightened? Because I'm smarter? I have more information? No. The only reason why we'll pay electronically is because my money is electronic. Why wouldn't I pay in the form that I keep my money? But if the accounts are empty, why would you pay digitally? Why would I go to that store to cash in order to then go to that store and buy my half kilo of rice electronically? It makes no sense. I will cash in to send money to my mother 500 kilometers away. But I will not cash in at that store to pay for goods at a store that is 5 meters away. So you're not having the savings impact on people, you're foregoing a lot of float income, you're not capturing merchant payments, and if the account balances are low and the account balances are low or negligible, and there's very few payments because you're not capturing the daily ones, you're not gathering a lot of information. You are not being able to drive credit scoring for those customers. Therefore, your credit activity suffers. So what I want to argue is that the notion of the account is at the heart of the proposition. And yes, you can turn it into a pure payments proposition. But the thing that makes everything go round, that feeds the merchant payments, that feeds the credit scoring, is what's happening on the account. So if those accounts are empty, you're not doing very much. That also impacts your business model, because if you're not capturing a lot of transactions, because most of them are in cash, you may not have enough volume of transactions to push into your cash in, cash out networks. So cash in, cash out may or may not work because there's not enough business. So that is the overall reason why I want to talk about this. I'm not taking a savings is good, let's get people to save view. I'm taking a business point of view for you. Okay? So, why are accounts empty? I'm going to give you a bunch of reasons. And again, feel them here when I tell you. The first one, people are used to this payment cloud, which is the cash cloud, which is universal. Okay, it has its problems, especially when you have to move money distances, but I know how it works. I can get money from A to B with some degree of hassle, but I know how it works, and it works for everyone. And essentially what we're doing now with digital financial services, we're replacing that picture with this picture. Where each of these clouds is your shiny little digital cloud, which you are very proud of, you think is very good, but it's there alongside other clouds. Now again, feel from the stomach how it feels to be a customer and looking at these clouds and saying, so which is the one that I need? How does this work that is different to that? It's difficult to jump from cloud to cloud when the alternative, what you're used to, is one big blue cash cloud. So I promised someone I wasn't going to use this word, so I'm not going to use the word, but connecting, is that acceptable? Connecting, making things feel to the customer like you're one cloud, just like cash is, ought to be better for customers, so they feel more comfortable. You might argue, but that's not been a problem because they still use us. Well, because I will, if I need to send money from here to my mother there, I will find the cloud that is useful for that, but as soon as it gets to the other end, it gets cashed out. So I am comfortable using the cloud instantaneously for what I'm going to do. Because for this thing, I know it's this cloud. Whereas for that thing, I know to use the other cloud. And the other thing, I use the other cloud. But what I'm not going to do is leave money stranded in these clouds. It's just too complicated. Money's going to be in the wrong place. So that's one reason why wallets are empty. These are convenience stepping stones. You go like this from cloud to cloud. And as soon as you can, you just empty them. So that's one reason. Without presenting something quasi-universal, like cash, it's very difficult to have people wanting to leave money stranded in these clouds. So, much more of a problem, interoperability, paradoxically, lack of it is much more of a problem for store of value than means of payment. And that might seem paradoxical. Any comments so far? Feel free to jump in at any point in time with comments, question, whatever. It just doesn't... I use them as point solutions. I don't use them as permanent solutions. And that's the difference between means of payment and store of value. Let me mention a second reason why I think accounts are empty. And that has to do with the difference between digitizing payments and digitizing money. We keep talking how this is all digital money. No, it's not. It's digital payment. It's not digital money. Money is a state that value is in when it's not moving. It's money in the pocket. Payments is the state of money when it's moving. So are we digitizing money? No, we're not. Money is in cash form. We're digitizing the payments because if I need to send money home, we will digitize that money for a while and it'll get cashed out. But when transactions start and end in cash, you cannot say that you're cash light. You just cannot say that. I know everybody says that in Kenya, that it's going cash light. No, it's not. It's been very successful electronifying payments, but not electronifying money. Because you cannot go cash light on empty accounts. The very definition of electronifying money is that there is money in digital format. So don't confuse payments from money. And why is it difficult to digitize both at the same time? Because for payments, to digitize a payment, what you want is go, go, go. Every dollar being like every other dollar. Convenience, flow. Payments is flow. The last thing you want when in your payments offering is for the customer have to pick the right kinds of shillings because there's this type of shilling. No. Every shilling, like every other shilling, they're all sitting in one place in your account, cash in, go. It's all go, go, go. That's why I'm using the analogy of the river. But when it comes to savings, or store of value in general, it's completely the opposite. The last thing you want to feel like you're managing the money is for every dollar to be like every other dollar. Or for every shilling to be like every other shilling. That you've lost it. You have no way of managing your money if you think of it as one continuous flow of money. Which is why money and the store of value function is typically associated with envelopes, with jars. And here I depict it with putting notes on money, pinning it to a purpose, pinning it to an origin, pinning it to something that makes this different to that. Because if all the money is the same, how are you going to manage it? We could manage all the money being the same because we do budgeting, an abstraction. But for people who don't do budgeting, the way, in terms of a spreadsheet, the way to do budgeting is by calling money different things. It's about creating flexible money hierarchies. Not all monies are equal. In this world, all monies are equal. In this world, not all monies are equal. This money is more important because this money is for the welfare of my children. This money is for day-to-day living. This money is for me and my friends to go out having some fun on Friday. All these are legitimate uses. But good money management means you're very clear as to what kind of money we're talking about. Do you offer that? Can you imagine an account, one account, that can deliver flow and friction at the same time? Can you imagine an account where every dollar is like every other dollar, but it's not? No, it's not possible. So in the digital financial services world, in general, all providers have tended to favor flow. And payments have followed. Friction has not been solved. To the extent that there's friction products, they come in highly standardized boxes that just don't suit me. Oh, because here's a time deposit. Yeah, but, okay, yeah, this money is for later, but what if my daughter gets sick? Why can't I access the money? Okay, I said the money was for school fees, but what's the point of keeping school fees if my daughter is not going to be able to go to school? So I need to decide the friction. And bank products that deliver friction, in general, are overly inflexible because they're directed. The question is, how can we deliver the friction that works for me? Meaning that it's a friction that, if this is the money for school fees, doesn't give me access to school fees monies when I don't really need it, but when I really need it, I can put my money in it. And this is a psychological game. It's not about you being very clever with features. About we need to discipline poor people. No. People do this, have traditionally do this, by putting money in a jar. And it's just the act of putting it in a jar, where you can still stick your hand in it at any point in time. But because in your mind this jar is school fees, that's where I go, no, not justified to go out drinking with this money. Right? It's a psychological game. So that is what is lacking in financial services. Let me emphasize why that's not a problem for you or for us, but it's a problem for poor people. Friction and flow. How do banks traditionally have solved this need for both friction and flow? Typically it's been, well, segment your portfolio. Have enough flow money in your checking account, in your savings account, and then have enough friction money in your time deposits, in your retirement account, in your certificates of deposit. So banks solve this by segmenting the portfolio, a barbell of friction on one side, flow on the other side. That's fine for us. But if you're poor, not fine. Because you cannot afford, with little money you have, you cannot afford to say this is a friction dollar and this is a flow dollar. Every dollar needs to be doing double duty. It needs to be a friction product when you don't really need it, and it needs to be a flow product when you really do because my daughter is sick. Is this clear? I just want you to feel in your gut how inadequate it is for you to manage your money and you don't have any Excel spreadsheet with your budget if everything is on one account. Or you're offered a second account that doesn't work for you because it's not flexible. So this is the second reason. Friction and flow. Both delivered at the same time, acting on the same dollar, not through specialization of your portfolio, because they can't do that. And let me tell you, here before I go to that, most of the illiquidity that comes with friction is not because someone imposed a restriction on them, it's mental. I put my money in this jar for school fees, and just because I think school fees, that's an illiquidity feature for me, right? So it's all about stories. It's all about attaching stories to money. I call digital accounts story killers, because you're expecting people to put all their money that comes from different stories, that have different origins, that have different purposes or destinations in one account, and you put them through the blender. You kill all stories. I cannot manage that. It's unmanageable. So I'm going to withdraw every time I can, to preserve this different story of every type of money. So it's all stories. But what is the element, what are the essential elements of stories? Time, characters, tensions. So, what are money stories? Think again in your gut. Imagine a poor family, husband and wife, having a conversation at night about some money story, some money problems that they're having. You can think in multiple stories, but I'm going to tell you the meta story, the story that explains all stories in money. Like I could do a meta story for Hollywood. Boy meets girl, you know, it starts like that. Boy meets girl, they fall in love, something takes them apart, and then someone needs to be heroic to cause the reunion, right? That's a meta story for Hollywood. What is the money meta story? Well, let me get it started for you. All stories are like this. The past, the present, and the future walked into a bar. It was tense. This is the beginning of all money stories. Because the actors in the money tensions is not the bill payment company, it's not Luku, it's not your mother. It's you, your past you, your future you. And you've all passing judgment on each other. Because I wish past me had done some things differently, and I know future me is looking over my shoulder, judging what I decide today. And there's this constant tension between past me, present me, and future me. Yes, the mother is there in this money story, but she's a secondary character. The primary character is how I feel about myself, how I feel what I've done in the past, how I want to think of myself going forward. So if you're not helping people with money stories that have this sort of origin, you're not really helping them with their core issues. Bill payment doesn't begin to answer this. That's not to say it's not useful, but that's purely convenience, usefulness. This goes to the heart of their money troubles. Can they manage these tensions better because you gave them that product through the frictions or features that I was mentioning? One final reason why I think those accounts are empty. We actually call things words that mean lots to us and not to our target market. I'm in favor of eliminating the word savings from our vocabulary. When we talk to the base of the pyramid, the word just does not connect. Because you go talk to them about savings, and you see their eyes start glazing over, and say, "Well, what's the problem?" Well, understand, savings is what I do when I have excess money. Except, when does that happen? When do I have excess money? And so that's where you get reactions like, savings is not for people like me. Savings is for rich people. And yet, you see the jars that they have with all the money and the envelopes, and you say, but you do save. Oh, no, that's not savings, that's school fees. The word savings, they use in entirely different ways. So why do we insist on using that word for them? Because their problem is not that I have excess money, for which savings would be a solution. Their problem is there's too many things I want to buy, too many bills I need to pay, today and in the future. And my problem is that today's payments are killing tomorrow's payments. The past, the present, and the future being in tension. So, don't talk about savings. It's all about payments. It's all about payments for them. But make no mistake, not payments the way you talk about payments. Because for some reason in this industry, payments are only understood as real time now. No. Payments is because I want to buy a bicycle next month. Because I need to pay school fees 2 weeks from today. Because I need to send money to my mother at the end of the month. Those are payments. But your businesses, in general, only work for payments you need to do now. Oh, you have the money for school fees? Okay, give it to me. Give me the money. I'm going to send it. And you go, as a customer goes, well, thank you for that. It was convenient for you to pay the school. Thank you for saving me the line, the walk, and etc. But frankly, you didn't help me in the hardest part. The hardest part for me was getting the money in the first place to pay the school fees. So you got very late in that transaction. A core difference about how people think about savings. For us, savings is money that you haven't used. If you've not spent it, you've saved it. That's not how they look at it. Savings is money that is not spoken for. Because if I put it in a jar and I'm thinking of it for school fees, it's not savings anymore. It's school fees. It's preparing for a payment. It's a prepayment. That's how they think of it. And why is that good? Why is it actually a really, really good idea to think of savings not as money not used, but rather as money not spoken for? Because if you look at it like this, savings is the thing to eliminate. Savings is the last thing you want. So I think it'd be really cool for a bank to offer a campaign to their customers saying, our goal, 0 savings. Understand what we mean by that. What I mean by that is 0 money that you have no idea what you're going to do with. Why? Because that's vulnerable money. That's risky money. It's money. It's very easy to use for anything because it's not spoken for. It's tempting. It's money that is just there waiting for you to use it. Which is why savings is in fact an incredibly weak word for them. Cool people don't save. Cool people invest. Meaning, it's savings with a purpose. It's money working for me. Just change the words, and it's the same thing. And it's very important, this notion that, yeah, people have goals, school fees, this and that. But don't make the mistake, and I think that's one we always make in our industry, don't make the mistake of thinking that those goals are specific. They're not specific. They're broad and changing. When I put money here for school fees, okay, school fees, don't take me literally. This is not school fees. This is for things of a moral character similar to school fees. So am I going to go drinking with my friends on school fees money? No, moral hierarchy there, absolutely not. But will I take my daughter to the hospital? It's going to be my decision and mine alone, and you need to make it the customer's decision whether it's justified for me to go into this pot of money or not. And you should not give them products that prejudge that or make her feel like you're passing judgment on them. Or because you had weakness, you didn't stick by your commitment savings product. Only they can make the decision of whether accessing this money that I've attached a certain moral character to is justified or not. So money is never single purpose. It's always dual purpose. In this example that I said, it's school fees money for a purpose. It's also insurance money. Because if my daughter gets sick, I know I can use it. So a product that only targets one purpose is not going to work because they're always doing multiple purposes with the money. It's for school fees, it's also insurance money. They're both equally legitimate. A lot of financial behaviors that you see informally, you see this dual purpose happening time and time again. One very common informal practice is to give money to the money guard, to a rich relative that you trust, a successful businessman. Basically, you're putting distance between you and your money. I give the money to someone I respect, and when I need the money back, I'm going to ask for that money back, adding some peer pressure, some discipline, and all that kind of stuff. A great financial product. It's used everywhere in the world. But understand that this is not a savings product alone. In the literature, you always hear that this is a savings product. I'm saving with richer relatives. No, it's doing double duty. Because the reason why I'm giving my money to you is because I trust you, but also because I'm wanting to develop a relationship with you. I'm wanting to impress you. I'm wanting you to trust me so that if my daughter gets sick, I can get some of my money back and some more. This is what I call liquidity farming. It's my term, liquidity farming. I'm farming liquidity sources in my community through relationships. So again, money always serves multiple duties. And any product that is single purpose at the base of the pyramid is going to fail. Because that's when you hear things like, money's not working for me. This money with the money guard is working for me because a friend of mine is benefiting from the money while I'm not using it, and I'm increasing my social capital with him. I can have a loan later on. So it's fairly complex, multiple objectives happening at the same time. These budgets, goals, they do it, but they don't. They don't do it the way we do it. We do it by listing purposes. Why do we budget based on purpose? Well, because we know our income. The budgeting starts with a salary at the top, and then all that remains to be decided is how we're going to allocate it across expenditures. So that's why budgeting is about rent versus food versus this versus that. But you can't even fill the top line. How much money am I going to make? I don't know. The hardest part of budgeting for them is not how I'm going to spend my money. The hardest part is how I'm going to get the money. So to come with a tool that is about how to spend it, yeah, I don't need that much help with that, frankly. So instead of having this very specific budgeting rules that they cannot afford because they cannot live by rules, what they develop is these moral hierarchies of money, different types of money. And I call it money animation. It's almost like they give them little cartoons in their mind that there's this kind of money and that kind of money, and they play little tricks and so on. They play a little animation with themselves. Money has character. Money has feeling. And this money is not like that money, because this was inheritance money, whereas this is money that I earned easily. And so it's going to be used in some easy come, easy go way. There's a lot of morality around money, because that is the basis of discipline, of budgeting. And ultimately, understand the conversation that they want to have with you. For most of us, banking is about how do we manage the money I have. And this is a pyramid. Going with that message obviously is laughable. Because, really? You need help with the money that you have? You know, how un-Tanzanian is that? You know, that's not where I need help. What I need help is managing the money that I need, but I don't have. That's where I need help. And most of the financial lives of the poor is not managing money they have, is scrambling for liquidity for the money that I need because my daughter got sick, because I didn't bring enough income to the table. Where am I going to get it? I'm going to get it from you because we developed the trust relationship. So I just put it out there. Imagine a bank or a mobile money operator where your branding is, you need help managing your money. Plenty of other banks will do that for you. How much a loser can you be that you need help managing your money? We're here to help you manage the money that you don't have, but that you need. And then, of course, there's credit, but there's also the savings story. I'm going to help you build up that money that you need for school fees. I'm going to help you. So it's not about just living in perpetual credit. I'm going to help you make sure that by this date you have the money that you need, because I'm going to build these disciplined things, these digital jars, the equivalent of, that will allow you to get there. Okay? And if I set money aside for a purpose, which was school fees, if your daughter gets sick, no problem. I'm going to give you that money back, or I'm going to give you a loan from yourself against that. So notions of savings, I would invite you all to completely rethink how you communicate. And I think the most important one is money never does single duty. Your products all are designed to do single duty. So, at the end of the day, I think what's important, what your products need to do first and foremost, is give people more of a sense of control over their lives and their money. Control is the key word. I feel better if I have more sense of control. If you send me money electronically today from a bank or a telco, what can I do to feel in control of that money? I understand that taking control is taking an action. right? If we're in the same car, you're driving, I'm not in control because I cannot take action. You are in control because you're turning the wheel, right? So having a sense of control means giving me the actions that I can take that give me that sense of control. So, question. I just received some electronic money. What action can I take to say I'm taking control? What do you let me do? What do you let me do?
Withdraw the money.
Say again?
Withdraw the money.
Withdraw the money is the only thing you can do. Checking balance is not an action, by the way. Checking balance is just checking that you're not screwing them. Withdraw money is the only thing you allow them to do. So why do people universally withdraw money the moment they receive it? Because that's their way of taking control. And then they're going to be doing the jars and all that stuff. It's exercising more control. So my challenge to you is embedding in your digital products the things that make them have a sense of control. So the moment I get the money, I can immediately start managing these tensions between the past, the present, and the future. The present is easy. If I send the money the day that school fees are due, I'm going to pay school fees. But if school fees are not due until 2 weeks from now, what action can I take other than withdraw it? How about, let's say the school fees are due on March 15. How about I can send money to myself to March 15. That's my March 15 money, which in my mind is school fees. You've just given me a sense of control. What if I could send some money to Friday? It's my Friday money. What's Friday money? Whatever I want. I think you know what my Friday money is, but maybe, just maybe, I'm an entrepreneur, and that's when I need to pay wages to my employees, and that's my Friday money.
Yeah.
I have that idea of going on holiday with my back up country with my family. I don't have a date. That'll be my green money. I'm going to send it to green, because green is what reminds me of the village back home. To whatever I want. Give me those flexible, easy ways for me to manage my money that is not budgeting. Where it's the act of moving money that has implicit within it the planning moment. Okay? I can get back more to these ideas that I have on how you do this, but before doing that, let's just investigate how all this gets done in the informal world, because it's incredible, there's incredible variety. So, if you're poor, you have some money, what do you do with it? Well, you can put it in jars, glass jars, with a lid or without lid, up to you. You put it under the mattress. But there's more interesting types of boxes. Some are metal, some are wood. Some have a lock, some don't. Those that have a lock, sometimes I keep the lock, and sometimes I give to Sauce to keep for me, distance. So there's some boxes that you actually need to break to get the money in it. The mud bank. Start feeling in your stomach how charged with emotion this is. I could just give you purposes, types of money. And I think we would pretty much agree which box you should go in. So we are storifying money, and what I have stories in my money because it came from a certain place and I have a certain idea for it. And what these receptacles do, they're magnets for those stories. Because there's a story that there's a box that feels right for that story. And that's how they manage their money. That's budgeting for them. There's other boxes, the ones that move, which are incredibly complex financial instruments with negative interest rates because you have to feed them. And risky because they die. But charged with feeling. Personal feeling, social feeling, with very clever financial discipline features that do the same two things, flow and friction. Is a cow flow or is it friction? It's both. If you have an emergency, your house just got destructed by a hurricane, sell the cow. No problem, sell the cow. This is not a time deposit. You don't have to wait until a certain date for the cow. Sell it, go ahead, sell it. But there's a lot of features that make it friction so that you will not use it for unimportant things. Yes, you can sell the cow, but not immediately. You can't be walking down Main Street with a cow, you see a dress you like, and you give the cow. That won't work. You have to go to the market the following day. It is a waiting period. It's a cooling off period before you liquidate the cow. So by that time, maybe the dress is not so interesting anymore. So there's a waiting period. There's indivisibility. You can't sell part of the cow. You have to sell the whole cow. So you won't even think of going drinking with the cow. Not with the cow, on the cow, I should say, or whatever. Because imagine the problem that lands you with. Now I have to deal with all this money that's left over. And then, of course, there's these boxes, which is your money guard, charged with emotion and two-way option value. And then there's the groups, the peer pressure. Just think of how good these things are. The financial inclusion literature will tell you that these are terrible financial instruments because they're all fraught with problems. And I would agree, each one individually is not very good. But what I find amazing is the combination of them is a fantastic portfolio. Why is it fantastic? Because it's so intuitive. And it's so intuitive in two ways. First, each of these boxes is intuitively suggestive of purpose. What kind of money goes where, you don't have to think twice about. You know. And even though the purposes may be fuzzy and changing, this story, this is school fees, but it may be also hospital money, I'll figure it out as I go along. The degree of I'll figure it out as you go along is also intuitive, which is the terms of use. Can I liquidate, can I sell this or not? And if I sell it, what's the waiting period? Is it until the next market day? Or until my rich relative comes back from work? It's clear what the terms of all these things are. So each one of them has embedded, and this is my terminology, prods, those things that make you save. The savings group is very good at prodding, because every week you need to bring some money. The logs, the thing that keeps it safe, that for the cow is the waiting period, the indivisibility, and the outs. Yeah, but if I have an emergency, can I get out? Yes. Go to market, sell the cow. So to me, that's how I now look at financial products, which are your prods, logs, and outs. And those have to be highly intuitive, like these are. There's no user manual that comes along with this portfolio. So this is the competition. And I really hope that from now on, you're not going to ask why those accounts are empty, why they're not saving you with us. You're going to be asking, why did we think that they ever were going to? Because you've just destroyed all sense of intuition by saying, oh yeah, very quaint, but we're modern now. Get rid of all these boxes and put everything here. Put everything through the blender. You've destroyed all intuition on purpose, and you've turned terms of use into small print. Because now I need to know the features of this of this box. There's nothing intuitive about a digital account. Oh, I can only withdraw once a month. Oh, there's only one free withdrawal. Oh, there's nothing. You cannot make that stuff intuitive if you just consider it a digital box. So how do you solve this? Again, the examples I was saying earlier. First, never use the word savings, but you send money. The same. Here, the language is you put money. You don't save. You put money in a box. Well, you send money to things. I sent money to Fridays. It's my Friday money. To pay wages, you understand, not for the other things. I send money to the first of the month because that's when I need to pay the rent. I send money to banana yellow because that's the color of the machine that I need to replace. Just with these three, you've given the small entrepreneur a whole accounting system. Because my business is every time I make a little bit of money, today I made a little money, I'm going to send a little bit of money to Friday, making sure that I can pay wages on Friday, a little bit of money to the first of the month, so I can pay the rent the first of the month, and anything else to banana yellow, so I start building up for the replacing that machine. You've given me an accounting system. This is not savings, this is far better than savings. How are we doing on time? I'm completely lost track of time. How much more? Okay, great. Now let me do it on the side. Let me just hammer the point even more. How many people are familiar with The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? It's an old comedy science fiction thing. I thought at the time it was really funny. I reread it recently and I thought it was not very funny. But comedy doesn't age very well, we know that. But anyway, I'm not here to tell you that. So this guy gets to travel the galaxy. And he's the hitchhiker's guide. He's the hitchhiker in the galaxy. And through some long process, I'm not going to tell the story exactly how it's in the book to make it simpler, but through some process that doesn't need to be described here, he gets to ask God one question. God turns out to be a computer, but we don't need to get into the deeper discussion of God here. Turns out to be a computer, and that computer is called Deep Thought in the book, which is what IBM called their chess machine. But anyway, he gets to ask God one question. God says, ask me one question. I'll tell you the truth. And so he's going, what question? It's quite a privilege to be asking God a question. But then I have so many questions, which question do I ask? And so he finally decides to pop the big one, right? Why not? What is the meaning of life? And the answer he got is 42. 42. God said 42. Okay, weird. How do you interpret this? I was doing like this. Did you notice any difference? How do you interpret this? Is God a liar? No. 42 really is the meaning of life. Is he playing a joke? No. He's serious. You ask the question, 42 is the meaning of life. The problem here is that you ask a question for which you're not prepared to interpret the answer. It's actually pretty depressing. The meaning of life is such a low number as 42. I would feel better if it were like 3 trillion or something. But 42 is the meaning of life. We just cannot interpret that answer. So you can ask questions. That doesn't mean that you got the answer that is useful for you. That's the moral of this story. Now let me play this again in our context. A poor person goes to the phone. Oh, financial service provider, all-powerful financial service provider, tell me, what is my financial situation? And you all respond, 42. Two problems with that. First, 42 is a truly depressing low number, and that really is the balance, right? You got a check balance. You asked for what's my financial condition, you got a check balance. 42 really is your balance. So that's not a really helpful answer because it's depressing to begin with. So why are you flaunting that as the be-all and end-all when that's the most depressing element? But there's a broader problem with the answer 42. It's like, yeah, okay, but that's really not what I was asking. What I was asking is, can present me pay for school fees? Will future me be able to send money home and keep paying for my parents? Can I do this? Can I do that? And how does 42 help me? It just does not. So not only don't we give them the tools that they can send money to keep, but we are not giving them the way to interpret this world. Whereas in this world here, all they need to do is take a walk down the yard. Cows, this, and oh yeah, school fees, oh yeah, this. There's a story, I don't know whether it's true, someone in India that actually labeled his cows. Mm-hmm. So this cow has the name of the school, and this guy, I don't know whether that's true. Okay. So, at the end of the day, we're all here to change behaviors. Impact comes by changing behaviors. But there's two elements of that behavior change. One is get people to think differently about money and about the question of what is my financial situation? How do I even think about my financial situation? And you also wanted to change how they execute those financial decisions because you wanted to move them to a digital world. And what we're all trying to do is this. Way too hard. Because to make sense of the new tool, which is an account, that is putting stories to the blender, you need to develop a new financial capability for me called budgeting. Way too hard, this is not going to happen. So you have two alternatives. Am I going to go down this path, which I call, I'm sorry, I hope nobody is offended here, the crybaby approach, which is, oh please government, please someone, please educate them. Financial education, because I can't do my thing if they're not financially educated. That's never going to happen, because education will come from the usage. It will not come as a prior to using financial services. I think the path we need to go is this one. Give them new tools that work entirely within their existing mental models without changing anything. Digitize what they already do. Digitize those jars. In the way they know them. Don't substitute this with a time deposit that is inflexible and only has one purpose. Invent the products that do multiple purposes. Here's a radical idea. If I'm saving, why? Okay, I haven't thought through this one very much, but just, it's an idea out there. Why don't you ask me who should be getting my money? Basically, I save, I give the money to the bank, and then the bank decides who's going to get my money. Why don't you involve me in that decision and say, okay, I would like him to get my money. Because this way I'm building that relationship, right? And then you go, well, with a credit score, I can give him so much, the rest we keep. So, why can't I influence who in my network gets my money? It's kind of getting it closer to the P2P model without being P2P. So that would be an example of that. Replicating as much as possible what they're currently thinking. And over time, there's no question to me that once you pay them the digital tools, you can evolve the tools in a way that leads them to new ways of thinking. Because that small business that got used to running their business by sending money to Friday to pay wages, sending money to the first of the month to pay rent, sending money to Banana Yellow to replace the machine, after a while, I think you will be able to say, okay, let me tell you about a more sophisticated accounting platform that you'll like. You can evolve the tools, and those tools then will carry them to new mental models. This, by the way, I would say is the story of the internet. Those of us who were there pre-Google, when you first got Google, did someone educate you on all the things you could do with Google because you were going to be able to book taxis? And no. At the beginning is, do I go to Encyclopedia Britannica to check on something, or do I go to Google? There was existing mental models, new tools. But the tool itself took us to places that we couldn't even imagine. It's the same thing. Let the tools do the education, not the other way around. So in summary, now going to the business case. I'm not going to give a specific answer to the business case question, I'm sorry. But basically in our industry, the traditional driver of business revenue was credit. And we cranked that, and we cranked it, and we cranked it. Then came M-Pesa in Kenya and said, wait, there's one more not bad source of profitability, which is payments. Understood as remote payments, because that's the only one for which there's willingness to pay. There's no willingness to pay for day-to-day payments. But for remote payments 500 kilometers away, absolutely. I'm of the view that for a remote payment, no matter what a mobile money operator is charged, it would still be a bargain compared to the alternative. But understand that if you charge that very high, you'll never get beyond a very small number of transactions. So those are the two wheels of profitability. And it's hard to crank them. Here you need an army of loan officers because you know nothing about these people. You need to go to their homes and understand and learn. And there you have this problem of having to feed all this cash in, cash out network when in fact you're actually delivering very few transactions because this only works for remote transactions, which is only once a month for most people. What you need is something connecting these wheels. And what connects these wheels is a store of value. Not savings. I'm not taking a moral view that savings is good for you. But the store of value is the cornerstone of any banking proposition. Why? Because if I have a store of value, I'm putting customers in a natural long position in digital money, which is where I am, which is why today when I don't take you out for dinner, I will pay with a credit card. Right? You need to put people in a long position in electronic money because that's going to drive payment preference. So if you forget storage or value, you're not going to digitize many transactions beyond the remote, beyond bill payment. And it's up to you to decide whether those are enough to sustain the agent network that you need. And if you do not, and if you get to see this going up and down and the payments that people make, don't you think that's useful credit scoring information? There's this view going around this industry that the credit scoring thing gets solved by looking at data that other people have. I really don't believe in that. People are financially excluded because they're data excluded. It's not the other way around. So the idea that there's this databases out there, that if only we can patch them together, all of a sudden we want to give big loans to poor people, I just don't understand that. Yes, big data and alternative data sources can start giving $5 loans, but on a mobile ARPU of $1.5, seriously, will that ever go anywhere in terms of significant amounts? This is real credit scoring information. So you as a provider, it's your responsibility to create your customer data by getting them to do things with you and not just look for outsiders to share their data with you. And if you have credit and you give them the solutions to manage money, they're more likely to repay that loan. Because I've been talking about sending money to the first of the month to pay rent or school fees. But if you're an entrepreneur, you don't worry about those things. My spouse does. What I worry about as an entrepreneur, the first and foremost as a trader, is I need to repay that line of credit. That line of credit is everything for me. Because if that line of credit goes, my whole business goes. So today, I'm going to send some money to March 15 because that's when my credit is due. So you're giving them the tools to repay your own loans. How wonderful is that? So this becomes a logical, consistent proposition where profitability will always come from here and maybe here. But this is what drives the volume. So what I think has happened is a bit too much of a narrow view of where is profitability as opposed to what are the engines of volume. I can leave it there. I have one more slide, but I can leave it there.
Finish.
Okay. So some summary thoughts. This is the first one, and it's really my main one. I'm sick and tired of hearing people say, "Oh, but we need to make our product simple." No, we don't. No, we don't. What was simple about that cow? What's simple about the savings group? Simple is required only if you build something that is not intuitive. But if it is intuitive, who cares how complex it is? Because people have a handle on it. So yes, make it simple only if you fail on intuition. Simplicity for losers. Second, there's this eternal debate, is formal better than informal, and should we be, I tend to look at the stacks, the layer model, where you have the more infrastructure thing at the bottom and more the customer services, the applications at the top. In general, it seems logical to me that the formal bits should be the lower level layers. The money transfer platform, the agents, all this stuff needs to be working well with credibility, supervised, trusted. But keep the icing on the cake at the top informal, or at least replicate that as much as possible. It's not the battle of formal over informal. It's rather, how do I incorporate all those informal practices on top of my platform? So it's informal on top of formal is the way I would look at it. Instead of this, we need to design better banking products. No, you don't. You just need to replicate what's already there. Going from pay now, which is the obsession of the worldwide of the mobile money community, pay now. Oh, you don't need to pay a bill now? Okay. Get to me later when you need to pay one. 2, support the full transaction life cycle. Because the pay the school fee cycle started the moment I said, oh my God, the due date is approaching. It continues every day that I put a little bit of money towards that. It continues on the day that I need to pay the bill. And remember that because you helped me set the money aside for that for paying that bill, at that point the money is digital, and because it's digital, there's no question the payment will not be digital, because people want to pay in the form in which they have the money. So you don't help them with the aggregate the money for the school fees payment. Why would they pay it electronically? Unless the school is far away and you just don't want to deal with them because they're nasty. Okay, this is a big one for me. There's a disease in the industry, going around the industry, I call productitis. Productitis is a disease that we're going to solve financial inclusion only by being really, really clever about what is the right product for you. You're a segment. You need something special. I am going to live in your world, and I'm going to design the solution for you. And I'm going to design the solution for you because you are so special and I'm so customer-centric. That's never going to work. Because you don't have the marketing ability to be marketing this product for you, this product for you, this product for you, and this product for you. Never going to work. What you need is tools. Tools that everybody uses in different ways. So the element of incorporating into my life is my job. You just give me the generic tools. I'll give meaning to the tools. Example, send money to Friday. Send money to a date. Again, I'm a housewife. I use it to pay my bills. I'm a businessman. I use it to make sure I always repay my lines of credit on time. I'm a farmer. I have the opposite problem. I got all my money all in once, so I'm going to pay this much money to April 1st, which is for the planting season, whatever crop this is. Then for the fertilizer, and the rest of the money that I have, my family and I need to survive 4 months. I'm going to pay some money to February 1st, March 1st, April 1st, May 1st. I've paid myself a salary. So these are 4 vastly different use cases of the same tool. Send money to a date. And date is not the only thing. There's days, there's the week, there's colors. You can send money to anything that people can attach their stories to. You can send money to cars, because it's my Ferrari money versus my Subaru money. Now, isn't that charged with meaning for some people? I'm not into cars, it wouldn't work for me. So it's the notion of develop general tools that work for everyone, except that everyone uses them in slightly different ways. Again, this is the story of the internet. Did Google come, I need to do a segmented Google search just for you because your needs are different to you? No. Give us the tool and we'll use it in a particular way. Tools versus products. I think you should stop thinking about products and shift to tools. What is the difference? A tool is something that can be used in a variety of different contexts by very different people with very different outcomes. The advantage of doing that is that then you only need to explain the tool once, how it works. And then all your marketing can be on the use cases. Example of a tool, the hammer. Okay, so I'm going to go through the hammer story. The hammer. I got a tool. This is a hammer. All you need to know about this is that it goes bang, bang. That's it. I've explained the hammer. It goes bang, bang. Now let me tell you what you can hammer. With this, you can build houses. And with this, you can nail pictures on the wall. And with this, you can do this, and with this, you can do that. Just simplify the marketing problem dramatically. You only need to explain once what this is. And then you can spend the rest of your marketing budget explaining the use cases. Use the hammer for this. Use the hammer for that. This is actually very consistent with the original positioning of M-Pesa in Kenya. Send money home was the use case of a generic tool which is send money to anyone. So, as much as possible, you want to focus your marketing on promoting the use case, not on explaining the tool. I talked about this one. Yeah, okay, there might be data about your core customer somewhere. I think it's up to you to build that database. And finally, I invite you to go on a journey from digitizing payments to digitizing money, because we haven't even begun that journey. As long as accounts are empty, don't even talk to me about digital money. I'm gonna leave it there. So,
thank you very much, Ignacio. Thank you very, very much for this. And ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome questions if you have for a few minutes.
Yes, good morning. I'm Diego from Tigo. Thank you, Ignacio. Very enlightening, very interesting. I just want to maybe compliment or ask you to elaborate a little bit on something. I mean, I understand completely what you mean about creating tools for people to use their money, to be able to administrate their accounts. But how about the ecosystem? I think that the real reason why accounts are not being filled is because the ecosystem is a money-based ecosystem, a physical money-based ecosystem. I mean, what's the point of that guy keeping money on the jar, taking it to the bank or to a mobile money account, and then when they have to pay the school, they have to go back to the bank, walk 20 kilometers maybe, or go to Avocado, walk another 10 kilometers, and take that money away, convert it to cash, take it to the school. So I haven't seen maybe what you mentioned it at the end when you mentioned school fees, but I haven't seen a focus on really talking about the actual problem, which is this is a cash economy, right? And while it remains that way, it's going to be very difficult to achieve this transition to people keeping money on their digital accounts, being in banks or mobile money. So what's your view on that? Don't you think that the focus from the MNOs, from the banks, should be on enlarging the digital ecosystem that will, in effect, translate into a more digital economy rather than thinking of product?
yeah, absolutely. I think go to the heart of the matter. I no longer share the view, which I would say is the conventional wisdom in the industry, that savings comes inertially from payments. And what I mean by that is the conventional implicit view in the industry is that if only we throw enough digital payments to people, salaries, this and that, and conditional cash transfers, if only we throw enough digital money at them, and if only we give them enough places where they can use it, then the thing in between, which is store of value, will follow because it's convenient. That part I reject totally. I reject totally because your decision on how to save is not driven by what is the most convenient way to pay. In fact, it's the other way around. The way to pay is driven by how you save your money. And the proof of that is, if I wanted my money to be in the way that's easiest to pay, people wouldn't have cows. People wouldn't have gold. It goes to this friction versus flow thing. So throwing more flow at people on the in and on the out is not going to create the friction. So that's one comment. But addressing your bigger comment, I don't think it's going to be easy, but I think the secret to make that change on people is the sense of immediate control that mobile phones can give. The moment I make money, I can take that action. To send some money to Friday, to send some money for the school fees day, to park some money in Banana Yellow. So to me, it's an unproven hypothesis because no one has done it. But the way you're going to trump cash is by giving it that sense of immediate control, packaged with some privacy. Because cash is not very good for control in the sense that I get paid, I walk home, by the time I got home, future me is already caught up with me. So give me that sense, because what is the most virtuous moment when you're most likely to make the right planned decision? The moment you get the money. Because you're thinking how hard it was for you to earn it. If I have the planning moment when I'm at home, around my kids and my family, or walking down the street, temptation's already there. So my supposition as to how we defeat this attraction of cash is if we make it really, really powerful to people that this is your tool to be in control. Which is not to say we were to discipline you, but we were to give you the ways so you can discipline yourself in the ways that you want. I know it's a bit of a long shot and it's not going to be immediate. It's not going to be at the level of M-Pesa in Kenya when it started, send money home. You know, yeah, try it. I have a problem tomorrow and I have to pay the money home. It's not as immediate as that. But that's the best answer I can give you, that the elements of control and privacy can, if packaged with good products, with good tools, I should say, and good marketing, the tools by themselves will never do anything, but with good marketing that highlight this emotional side of control that you have, I think we can get places. But to be proven.
Hi, mine's Ignacio. I'm responsible for strategy at NMB. Further on to Diego's point, I kind of have to agree. And I'm just curious to get your another explanation, really. I mean, why should the development of electronic money, financial penetration, be different in East Africa or Africa as a whole as it has been in Europe or North America? You know, the development of the banking system there was partly through the proliferation of electronic banking services, right? ATMs went all over the place, you had internet banking, and those kind of things over the course of 20, 30 years made people use, cash less and less. So, to Diego's point, you build the ecosystem, you expand it, then it changes the mental model. So why are we saying now that, M&Os, banks need to come up with different tools and market them differently than other markets? Just curious to understand that.
First, let me clarify. I didn't say we don't need the ecosystem. What I'm saying is that's not going to be enough. Just a lot of electronic payments, a lot of electronic acceptance points, I don't think is going to deliver the results that you expect. That's my feeling. But I really like your analogy, except that I would flip it around. And to me, that's one of the stunning things. In Europe, in the US, first we digitized money. Then we digitized payments. It was not the other way around. In Africa, in the developing world, we're trying to do it the other way around. So people having money in bank accounts far preceded all the convenient ways of paying. ATM only started when I went to college. I saw my first ATM, and that's because I studied in the US. I waited in Spain, it would be another 10 years. So, all the payments innovation has proliferated because people had electronic money. And once you have electronic money, would you like to use this ATM? Yeah, I love it. Would you like to use that credit card? Yeah, I love it. This debit card, love it. This mobile application, love it. Because you're giving me outlets for the type of money that I have. Here, we're doing it backwards. We're electronified payments, not money. We're starting with the payments. We're not starting with the money. So I really like your historical analogy, except that I would flip it around. And I think maybe it's a bit unrealistic to say that we can sequence it backwards first, electronify money, and then do payments. But I do think that the two need to be coming much closer in time for the payments first strategy to really work.
What are your thoughts around, why did you do it yourself? Why don't you invest in it? What would be your response to that?
Excellent question. I think the question was, why am I still a consultant? I'm talking about which I think is an excellent question. I think it really goes to the heart of the problem. The reason why I'm still a consultant is, I've gone around the world 4 years now telling this story, and generally I get very good feedback, except my experience in the past has been everybody goes back to their office and do what they've always done. Change is hard. But why don't I do it as a startup? And my answer there, the barriers to entry are just too high. It's a regulatory issue. There's regulators here. I would like to explain that. The current regulatory model makes it too hard for anyone to enter. Because the regulatory model is one where one person needs to be responsible for everything. For the digital products, and for customer care, and for the network, and for the cash in, cash out, and everything. That's just too hard. That's not how the world works. The world generally works by people specializing in the different parts of the value chain. So my promise is I will become an entrepreneur once regulators allow independently licensed cash in, cash out networks to work for everyone. And I'm saying independently licensed. What I mean by that is once you have this license, you can do cash in, cash out for anyone, whether the banks like it and the telcos like it or not, because it's not their money. So if I have this license, I put money in M-Pesa, in Tigo, in Airtel, NMB, CRDB. Only by having customer accounts, I can do cash in, cash out. Because it's not the bank's money, it's not the public's money, it's my money. Why can't I trade my money for my customer's cash and vice versa? So I think it's this shackling of cash in, cash out as an inseparable part of the digital financial service proposition that is making it incredibly hard for entry to happen, making the incumbents comfortable, and reducing incentives to innovate, or pressures to innovate. So that would be my pitch. Create independent agent networks, and by that I mean networks that can go after the M-Pesa business, the Tigo business, the Airtel business, the NMB business, because it's their money. It's the agent network's money. In that case, I could just sign a customer contract with this player. I can have my cash in, cash out problem solved. At this point, let me do my bit, which is to do this. But in order to do this, you expect me to build a national cash in, cash out network in Tanzania. Forget it. I'm out. Anybody who wants to hire me as a consultant, I'm here.
Thank you very much, Ignacio. Can you use 2 to 3 minutes and talk about Digital Frontiers Institute?
Very happy to.
Thank you.
Thanks for the plug. Yeah, so with 2 colleagues, David Porteous, the founder and CEO of Bankable Frontier Associates, and Gavin Krugel, who was one of the first managers of the Mobile Money for the Bank program in the GSMA, who come together to create this institute called the Digital Frontiers Institute, brand new. And what we want to do is to create professional development journeys for people in our field. Most of us who work here have fallen into this accidentally. I know that's my case. And everything that I learned is being by doing and by accident. And payments is a bit of a screwy place because the hardcore payments people really know the jargon and really know how to make you feel this small if you don't use the terms the way they do. So it's a hard journey. And I think now digital financial services and payments needs to come from under banking because the problems are very different. And we want to create a sense of an emerging profession. A profession that is at the edge, a profession that needs a lot of thinking, a profession that is congealing around a set of ideas. So that's what we want to do. A professional development journey around the network. The first step to that professional development journey we see as the initial training, the capacitation, so that we bring everybody to the minimum common denominator understanding of the terms. We're using the same terms in the similar ways. We know the basic terms. We're not thrown off when someone says Bitcoin. We may not understand it, but we have a view. We have a view. Because, I've taken the time to understand. That's what we're after. So the first offering, which we're starting in a couple of weeks, is a 12-week online course on digital financial services with a university certificate. And the university partner that we have is the Fletcher School at Tufts University, a very reputable American university. At the end of the 12 weeks, you get that certificate from us and from them, co-branded. From then, you join the network. And what we want to do is not stop there with the initial training. Once you're in the network, then we'll add small modules. Do you want to know more about Bitcoin? Learn this. See this video. Do you want to know more about Agent Network Manager? Helix has this offering that we can plug you with. And to create this ongoing education platform and exchange for people in the industry. Initially, training and certification as just the starting point, but then who knows where we'll go. And through this course, we're going to be doing next year 1,000 students. So this is scale. This is not an elite program for the lucky few. Thank you for that.
Thank you very much, Ignacio. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank Ignacio one more time for coming in and talking to us, and I think it's been valuable. We will have an engagement session after this where Ignacio will be here for up to 3 hours, I guess. As we will be working out, Rogers, can you stand up, please? So Rogers will pass on a piece of paper. You can write your details if you want to engage with Ignacio. If you have time to do it today, well and good, or we will make that connection in a later future. I would like to have the last wrap-up comments for this session. And Thank you, Ignacio, for talking about the digital frontier. We as FSDT would like to have this institute in Tanzania strongly for two reasons. One is Tanzania has been a place where mobile money, digital finance is happening. And we would like the rest of the world to come here and learn. Not only to learn the content, but also to see how it happens. So we will be talking about the collaboration with the digital frontier and the local institutions in Tanzania to get this program happening. So please feel more than welcome to get engaged. I would like to talk about initiatives. So what? Ignacio has spoken and he said great stuff. So what? What are we doing after this? And the question is, as much as we've had great insights and we know that we need to think about the customer before we create product and services, I would like to link you with programs that we're doing at FSDT. And to start with is the Great Fin Disrupt. Actually, we had the first Fin Disrupt last year, and we're having another one in February. The organizations that has already sent their people into this program, and the organizations that have not, but they will actually send. The good news is we actually practicing most of what Ignacio has spoken about. We're putting the customer, for the first time in Tanzania, we're putting the customer in front of any innovation that we do. We're trying to create those tools for them and not product and services. And if you think about products that Ignacio has spoken about, poor people save, they send money, they know how to manage their money. And the question is how do we migrate them into electronic means and keep them engaged? I will play a video that talks about the rationale and the idea behind Fin Disrupt, and then I'll wrap up with the discussion on the next Fin Disrupt.
My name is Manzi Regasira. I'm responsible for strategy and special projects at National Microfinance Bank here in Tanzania. We think mobile financial services, digital payments are very, very important for Tanzania, and that's why we attended this event to learn more about what FSDT and the other players in the industry are trying to do. From my perspective, today's event was very insightful. I think banks like ours and the MNOs have been trying to come up with different solutions, trying to build products that we thought would help the people, help the bottom of the pyramid, people who are making modest incomes. But I think we learned that some of our solutions are not really solving their problems. And that was the key message from this event. It was about thinking about what do people actually need in their day-to-day lives, how do they see the world, and making sure that our products are tools that they can use as they need to help them better their lives. So I'm going to take that message back to my management team at NMB, and we're going to rethink some of the things that we do, that we have, and how we're approaching this challenge, and come up with new ways to better serve the people. So for me, it was a successful event.
My name is Irene Madejem Lola. I'm the Operations Director with the Financial Sector Deepening Trust. We are basically the organizers of today's event. Today's event is very important for us because it's an opportunity for us to engage with the financial services providers, the regulators, and all the collaborators in the market that we work with, because our key objective here is really to actually see how we can actually deepen financial services to the poor. And how we actually do that, we do it through our stakeholders, we do it through our partners, who are the people who we invited today. So today's topic, we actually had Ignacio Mas talking about money management issues and really provoking the private sector, which was here, and of course in an indirect way also talking to the regulators and all the stakeholders who are here, that really what is the definition of financial inclusion? Is it really just having payment moving from one place to another? Can you really say that you're really including these people? You're really supporting the poor to actually manage their day-to-day issues. And so counting the digital accounts, is that really enough? So that was a good provoking session where he went on and actually explained to them some of the tricks and some of his views, some of his ideas, some of the experiences that he's had, and to tell them how actually they can actually benefit better. From their position as private sector, profit making is very important. But where we actually come from, it's in that process, it's actually helping the poor, and it's basically in a way deepening financial services in the economy. So it was a good environment. It's a good environment of learning. It's a good environment of being provoked and actually them also responding on some of the issues. And also networking. We've given a wonderful environment. It's a good time in the year. It's the beginning of the year when people are actually starting to think about their plans and strategies for the year. So it's really good. So we're very happy. Quite a lot of them are actually even taking up some of the sessions that we've actually connected them to actually have a private session with Ignacio, where they will get to talk to him in detail, and that's really a service that we actually bring to the market.